Hello and welcome back to the Building Humans series. If you've been with us for the previous sessions, you probably know we've been setting the stage, looking at the logistics of early life.
The foundations, yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But today feels different. I feel like we are finally pulling back the curtain on the main event.
I think that's a good way to put it.
We're moving past the obvious stuff,
Yeah.
the feeding charts, the burping techniques, all the physical milestones that, every parent obsesses over.
Mm.
And we're diving into the hidden machinery of how a human being is actually constructed.
It's good to be back. And you're absolutely right to feel that shift in energy. The previous discussions were the groundwork, sure, but today we are looking at the structure itself. We're entering the realm of the invisible work that defines our species.
And before we jump into this concept of invisible construction, which frankly sounds a bit mysterious,
It is at first.
we have to acknowledge the incredible collaboration that makes this specific deep dive possible. We are working hand in hand with the Al-Mahaba Foundation and the Dar el Kalema Publishing House.
Their archives and their dedication to spreading this specific pedagogical knowledge are really the reason we have these source materials in front of us today. It's rare to get access to this level of detail presented with this kind of fidelity to the original vision.
Absolutely. And for anyone listening who wants to go deeper, we're looking at source material today that comes directly from those archives, specifically focusing on Maria Montessori's seminal work, The Secret of Childhood.
The Secret of Childhood. It's a title that promises a lot, doesn't it?
It really does. And the mission for this deep dive is, well, it's pretty specific. We aren't looking at the child's body today. We're not checking percentiles on a growth chart.
No.
We're looking at the internal construction of the human personality. I was reading through the source material last night preparing for this, and I have to admit, I stopped dead in my tracks when I saw the central hook of this argument.
I have a feeling I know exactly which concept you're referring to.
The text claims that children are born twice.
It stops everyone in their tracks the first time they hear it. It sounds impossible, doesn't it?
It sounds like sci-fi,
Yeah.
or maybe something deeply mystical. Biologically, we know there's one birth. You go to the hospital, there's labor, there's a baby, boom, done, welcome to the world.
Right. The physical event.
But this material talks about a spiritual embryo and a second birth.
Mm.
It feels like we're stepping out of biology and into, I don't know, metaphysics.
It does sound mystical, and Montessori certainly uses poetic language to capture the grandeur of the process. But in the context of this work, it's actually a very precise, almost scientific description of reality.
Really? Scientific?
It's an observation of a biological anomaly that is unique to humans.
So help us unpack this. When the source speaks of a spiritual embryo, is it implying the baby isn't finished when they're born?
That is exactly what it is saying. And I don't mean unfinished in the sense that they still need to grow taller or gain weight. I mean unfinished in a fundamental structural way.
Okay.
To understand this, we have to distinguish between the physical womb and what the text calls the spiritual womb.
The spiritual womb. I love that image, but I need you to ground it for me. Why do we need a second womb? What didn't get done in the first one?
Well, to answer that, we have to look at what the source material calls the mystery of helplessness. This is the core comparison it makes to help us understand our own nature. It draws a really sharp, almost uncomfortable line between the human baby and the rest of the animal kingdom.
Right. The text uses the kitten as the counterexample. I found that fascinating.
Let's look at the kitten, or a foal, or a calf. But the kitten is a great example because many of us have seen them. Think about a kitten being born. What happens?
Well, they're tiny and blind for a bit, but then they get going pretty fast.
Very fast. It emerges, and within a very short amount of time, hours, maybe a few days, it's alert. It can walk. It can very quickly hunt. It creates distinct sounds, meows, that are intelligible to its mother. It knows how to clean itself.
It's like it comes out of the box pre-assembled, some batteries included.
Exactly. It has a preset program. Nature has done all the work for the kitten inside the physical womb. When it emerges, it's essentially a complete functioning cat, just smaller.
It doesn't have to learn how to be a cat.
No, it doesn't have to figure out how to be a predator or how to stalk something. It just is a cat.
It downloads the Cat 1.0 software while it's still inside the mother.
That is a perfect analogy. The software is pre-installed, it boots up, runs a quick diagnostic, and it's, ready to go.
And then you look at a human baby.
And the contrast is, well, it's shocking when you really stop to consider it.
It really is. We're so used to babies that we kind of forget how strange they are, biologically speaking. A newborn human can't even hold its own head up.
Not for months.
They can't walk. They can't talk. They can't hunt or find food. They can't clean themselves. They can't do anything except cry, sleep, and eat.
If you look at it purely from a biological survival standpoint, it seems like a massive design flaw.
It does. If I were designing a species to survive in a hostile world, and you have to remember, for most of human history, the world was very hostile.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't design one that is completely immobile and defenseless for a year, maybe more.
Yeah.
That seems like a recipe for extinction.
Precisely. If nature is all about survival of the fittest, why would it produce an offspring so incredibly vulnerable? Why design a creature that requires years and years of intensive care just to do the basics that a kitten does in a few weeks?
But that's the question. Why are we so helpless?
The answer lies in that concept of the second birth. The kitten is born finished because, well, it doesn't have much more to become. Its potential is capped.
Capped. How do you mean?
It will be a cat. It will hunt mice. It will sleep in the sun. It will reproduce. That is the extent of its destiny. It's a wonderful destiny for a cat, but it's fixed.
So the efficiency comes at the cost of potential.
Correct. But the human baby. The human baby is born unfinished because the work they have to do, building a complex human mind, a soul, a unique personality, that kind of work simply cannot be done inside a physical womb.
Why not? Why can't we just stay in the physical womb until we can walk and talk? I know, physically the head would be too big for birth, but let's put that aside for a second.
It's about the environment. It's about the data input. The software of a human being relies on the environment to be written. You cannot build a mind that interacts with the complex, ever-changing world if you are isolated from that world. You need the input.
So the physical womb builds the hardware, the body.
Correct. The physical womb creates the vessel, the heart to pump blood, the lungs to breathe air, the limbs to eventually move. But once that vessel enters the world, it enters the spiritual womb.
Okay.
This is the period immediately after birth where the spiritual embryo resides. The baby isn't just growing bigger, they are incubating their spirit. They're building the software to run the hardware.
That reframes the whole idea of helplessness. It's not that they're weak, it's that they are under construction.
Exactly. Helplessness is not a deficit. It's a necessary state. A feature, not a bug.
A feature, not a bug.
You cannot have the complexity and adaptability of a human mind if you're born with a rigid, preset program like the kitten. You need a blank check, in a way. You need a period of absolute malleability where the environment can shape the brain.
This brings us to a really common metaphor that I think most of us have heard and probably even used. I know I used to think this way before I read this source material.
I think we all did.
The idea of the tabula rasa, the blank page.
The clean slate. It's a very popular idea in Western philosophy and, pop psychology.
We usually think of a baby as this empty notebook.
Mm-hmm.
And we, the adults, parents, teachers, society, we hold the pen. You write the personality onto the child. We teach them who to be. We instill values. We basically program them.
Yes, that's the common view.
But the source material, well, it has some strong words about that idea.
It does. It actually calls that idea insulting.
Insulting. That's a strong pushback. I mean, usually people think blank slate is a compliment. It means infinite potential, right? Why does Montessori find it insulting?
Because if you view the child as a blank page, you are viewing them as passive. You're saying they are just an object, a void, waiting for you to define them. It centers the adult. It says, I am the creator of this person.
It strips the child of their agency.
Their agency and their dignity. It implies they bring nothing to the table, that they're just raw clay waiting for the sculptor.
So it's not about infinite potential. It's about being empty.
Exactly. And the science and the careful observation provided in this text shows us that is demonstrably false. The child brings the plan. The child is not the clay. The child is the sculptor.
So if they aren't a blank page, what are they?
The source material uses a much more powerful word. The child is an architect.
An architect. I like that. It implies intention. It implies a blueprint. It implies, complex work.
Precisely. This is the concept of internal work. While we look at a baby lying in a crib, baby staring at the ceiling, and we think, oh, they're just resting or they're doing nothing, the reality is that there is a massive construction project happening inside.
It's deceptive, isn't it? Because physically, they're doing almost nothing. They might just be drooling a little bit, maybe wiggling a toe. But internally,
the brain is firing like a supercomputer. The source describes it this way. They are absorbing everything. The spiritual embryo is feeding on the environment.
Everything.
Every sound you make, every movement of light and shadow in the room, every emotion that passes through the home, whether it's spoken or not.
So it's not just passing over them, it's going into them.
It is becoming them. That's the difference. The architect is taking these raw materials, the specific sound of your voice, the way you walk, the feeling of safety or anxiety in the home, and they are using those materials to build the human spirit. They are literally wiring their own brains based on what they experience.
So we are not the builders, we aren't the writers of the book.
No. We're the audience. Or maybe, to stick with the metaphor, we're the supply chain managers.
Okay, I like that.
We supply the raw materials, we provide the environment, but the child is the one doing the heavy lifting. They are building a human from scratch.
That really changes how you look at a baby.
Yeah.
It shifts the respect level, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You're not looking at a helpless thing, you're looking at a busy genius.
Busy is the right word. We often project our own feelings onto the baby. We see them lying still and we think, boring. But for them, that stillness is necessary for the intense processing they're doing.
Right.
Imagine if you were trying to learn a new language, understand quantum physics, and figure out how to operate a giant robot all at the same time. You'd be pretty quiet too.
That is a fantastic way to put it.
Yeah.
And this connects back to that difference between the human and the animal we started with. This is where the source material gets into the concept of freedom.
Yes, this is the philosophical heart of the argument. And it's not, political freedom. It's biological freedom.
Let's dig into that. Because usually when we talk about freedom, we think about laws or rights. But here, we're talking about something written into our DNA, or rather, what's not written into it.
Exactly. Let's go back to the kitten. The kitten has instincts. We called them presets. It knows how to hunt mice not because it learned it, but because it's programmed to.
It's hardwired.
It's hardwired. That is efficient. It guarantees survival. But it is not free.
How so?
A cat cannot choose to be anything other than a cat. It can't decide one day that it's going to learn to bark. It can't choose to ignore a mouse scuttling by tire. The instinct to chase is compulsive.
Right, it's a reflex.
It cannot choose to write poetry or build a skyscraper. It is locked into its nature. It is, in a way, a slave to its instinct.
It has no options. It rides the rails of its biology.
Correct. But the human baby, because they are born without those presets, because they are born helpless, they possess pure potential. They possess the freedom to become.
And that's why the construction phase takes so long and requires so much energy.
Exactly. If you have a preset program, you boot up instantly. If you are building a complex, adaptable operating system from scratch, it takes time. You have to write the code line by line based on the data coming in.
This makes so much sense when you talk about language. The source material brings this up as, like, the primary proof of this theory.
It is the perfect example. It's the most obvious one. A kitten doesn't have to learn to meow. A dog doesn't have to study barking.
It just comes with the package.
It's hard-coded. A cat in Tokyo meows the same way as a cat in Paris.
But a human baby.
A human baby isn't born speaking English or Arabic or French or Swahili. No baby is born with a language preset.
They are born with the capacity to speak any language.
That is the gift of the second room. They spend those early years absorbing the specific sounds of their environment. If you take a baby born to Japanese parents in Tokyo and move them to a French family in Paris at 2 weeks old, what happens?
They grow up speaking perfect French with Parisian accent and probably using all the local hand gestures and slang, too.
Exactly. They become French in their cultural expression. The kitten, if moved, remains a Japanese cat in France. The kitten is fixed. The human is fluid. This is freedom.
So if a baby was born with a language preset, let's say we were all biologically hardwired to speak English,
Right.
we wouldn't be free to adapt to our world.
We would be profoundly limited. We couldn't communicate with anyone outside our species preset.
Yeah.
Their helplessness is the price they pay for their adaptability.
Wow.
They are not weak. They are specialized for adaptation. They are waiting to see where they land. Am I in the Arctic, the desert, a modern city, a nomadic tribe? And once they know, they can build a brain that fits that specific world perfectly.
That is just, it's mind-blowing. It really flips the script on how we view infancy. We see a baby struggling to lift their head and we think, poor thing, so weak.
Yeah.
But really, we should be thinking, wow, look at that supercomputer calibrating itself to the local gravitational field and atmospheric conditions.
They are busy building a genius. They are constructing a personality that has never existed before and will never exist again. They are doing work that we, as adults, can't even imagine anymore.
They can't do it.
We can't learn a language just by listening to it. Not anymore. We lost that superpower They have it.
Okay, so we've established the philosophy. It's a huge shift in thinking.
Mm.
We have the spiritual embryo, the architect, and this incredible concept of biological freedom through helplessness. It's a beautiful theory.
It is.
But I'm the kind of person who always wants to know, what do I do with this? How does this change things on a Tuesday afternoon when the baby is crying?
That is the most important question. Knowledge without application doesn't help the child. If we believe this, if we really believe the child is an architect, we have to change how we live with them.
So if this is all true, how do we change our behavior? Because let's be honest, we don't treat babies like architects. We treat them like, I don't know, pets
Yeah.
or accessories.
No, we don't. We don't treat them with the dignity an architect deserves. And the source material is very, very critical of this. It mentions what he calls the doll problem.
The doll problem. I can guess what that means, but walk us through it.
It means we tend to treat babies like objects, like cute dolls that we can dress up, or like pieces of furniture that we move from room to room without a thought.
Right.
We pick them up when we want to hold them. We put them down when we are tired. We poke them to get a smile. We bounce them when they're quiet because we think they must be bored.
We treat them for our amusement, essentially, or our convenience. We think the baby is just lying there. I must entertain it.
Or we assume that because they aren't moving or talking, they aren't doing anything important, so we interrupt them constantly without a second thought.
This is where the source gives that specific directive, and it's so strong. Stop treating them like dolls. Respect their work. But what does that look like in practice? Because a baby does need to be carried. They do need to be changed.
Of course, but there is a difference between care and interruption. There is a profound difference between handling a child with respect for their inner world and handling them like a package.
Okay.
The source gives a specific example that really illustrates this well, the example of the shadow.
Yes, tell us about that. It's such a simple image, but it really stuck with me.
Imagine a young child, maybe a toddler, or even younger, just sitting on the floor, and they are just staring at a shadow on the wall. Maybe it's a shadow of a leaf moving in the wind outside the window, and they stare at it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, just absolute, complete stillness and concentration.
Now, let's be real. The adult instinct in that situation, I know what mine would be. I'd probably think, are they okay? Or they look bored? Or I just feel awkward about the silence.
Yes, the silence makes us uncomfortable.
I'd want to go over, maybe tickle them or show them a toy. Look over here, look at this bright, noisy rattle. Look at the iPad.
Exactly. Our impulse is to entertain or to distract. We think we are helping. We think, oh, they're just zoning out, let me engage them. We value engagement above everything else. We think if they aren't laughing or interacting with us, they aren't living.
But according to Montessori, what's actually happening there?
According to this view of the spiritual embryo, that child is not zoning out. That child is working. They are feeding their spiritual embryo. They are observing the physics of light and shadow. They are tracking movement. They are building neural pathways of concentration.
They're building focus.
This is the very first time they are focusing their will on an external object. This is a monumental event in their psychic development.
And when I come over with my rattle and shake it in their face,
You have just crashed the construction site. You have interrupted a deep internal process. You've broken their concentration. You've essentially walked onto a movie set while the camera is rolling and started shouting.
and if I do that 10 times a day, 20 times a day,
Then you teach the child that concentration is impossible. You teach them that their internal world is not as important as the external world's demands. You teach them that they should look for entertainment rather than create their own focus.
so I might be inadvertently training them to have a short attention span.
You are teaching them to be dependent on you for their mental activity instead of trusting their own inner guide, their own architect.
Wow. So by trying to entertain them, I'm actually hindering them. I'm sabotaging the architect.
You are. And this brings us to the core value of the Al-Mahaba Foundation, which is all about service. We need to redefine what service means when it comes to a baby.
Right. Service. Usually if I think about serving a baby, I think about doing everything for them. Carrying them, feeding them, rocking them, entertaining them. Being their servant.
But here, the definition shifts completely. Service does not mean doing everything for them. It does not mean constant entertainment. Service means protecting their quiet work of creation.
Protecting the work. That sounds more like being a guardian or a security guard.
It means noticing that the child is focused on the shadow and holding back. It means stepping back and creating a perimeter of silence around them so they can finish their thought.
So doing nothing is actually doing something vital.
It means not disturbing them just because we are in a hurry to go to the store or because we want a hug right now.
That requires a lot of discipline for the adult. It is so much harder to do nothing than to do something.
It is profound discipline. It requires us to humble ourselves. We have to realize that what is happening inside that child's head is more important than our schedule, our ego, or our desire to play. We have to deprioritize ourselves.
It's about recognizing that the spiritual embryo is a VIP guest and we are the security detail. Our job is to keep the space safe so they can do their job.
That is a beautiful way to put it. We are the guardians of their construction. And this applies to physical movement, too. The source talks about how we carry children.
Oh, right. Not just interrupting their focus, but their physical efforts. We treat them like parcels.
We scoop them up without warning. We rush them from the car seat to the stroller to the crib. We move them at our pace. But the child lives in a different time zone. The architect works slowly, deliberately.
So service might mean waiting for them to try to crawl to the toy, which could take 5 minutes, rather than just handing it to them in 5 seconds.
Exactly. If they are reaching for something and struggling, our instinct is to help by giving it to them. But the help they actually need is the struggle. The struggle is how they build the coordination. The struggle is the work.
If you give them the toy.
You rob them of the victory. You rob them of the chance to build the neural pathway that says, I can do this. I can solve this problem.
Instead, you teach them.
Yes, you teach them, I'm helpless, I need the giant to do it for me, instead of, I am the architect, I can solve this problem myself.
This has really shifted my perspective. I mean, we started this deep dive talking about a biological curiosity, the second birth, and we've ended up with a completely new code of conduct for how to interact with the youngest humans among us.
It all connects. Once you understand the spiritual embryo, you understand the why, the need for freedom and time, and that dictates the how, respect, and observation.
It really moves us from seeing a helpless baby to seeing a busy architect.
And that is the paradigm shift. If you take one thing away from our conversation today, let it be that image. The next time you see a baby, don't see a blank slate. Don't see a doll. See a builder at work.
And ask yourself, am I helping the builder or am I getting in the way?
Exactly. That is the question we must ask ourselves every single day.
This is just the beginning of understanding the power of that builder, isn't it? We've talked about what they're doing, but we haven't really touched on the machinery they use to do it.
Oh, absolutely not. We are just scratching the surface. We've established that the child is an architect and that they are building a human spirit, but we haven't talked about the primary tool they use to do it.
Right. We've hinted at the supercomputer brain, but not how it actually works.
In our next deep dive, we are going to be talking about that specific tool. We are going to discuss the absorbent mind. And if you think the spiritual embryo is fascinating, wait until we get into the mechanics of the absorbent mind.
The absorbent mind.
The source material describes it as the most powerful sponge in the universe.
A sponge that can absorb languages, cultures, complex emotional codes, all without any conscious effort at all. It's basically a superpower that we all had, and then we all lost.
It is the greatest learning device nature has ever created, and understanding how it works explains almost everything about why children behave the way they do in those first few years. You won't want to miss that.
So here is our call to action for you, the listener. Between now and the next episode, try to observe the children in your life, your own, or even children you see in the park or the grocery store with this new lens.
Look for the work. Look for those moments of intense concentration. Even if it's just a baby staring at their own hand or a toddler crouching down to look at an ant on the sidewalk, ask yourself, is the architect building right now?
And if they are, try to offer them the service of protection. Give them that space. Be the security detail. See how it feels to just watch instead of doing.
And of course, if you want to go straight to the source, and we highly recommend that you do, you need to get your hands on The Secret of Childhood by Maria Montessori.
It's available at the Dar al-Khalima Library. Reading the original text brings these concepts to life in a way that is truly special. The way she describes the psychic life of the child is almost, well, poetic.
It's been a pleasure unpacking this with you today. It really feels like we've uncovered a secret layer of childhood that's hidden in plain sight.
It does. Thank you for listening to Building Humans. We will see you in the next deep dive. Remember our motto, host speaker and expert speaker. Love for all, service for everyone.